Shalom, Shabbat 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 Shalom, Umevorach, Shabbat Shalom, Umevorach, Shabbat Shalom, Umevorach, Shabbat Shalom, Umevorach. Sing with us. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good to be with you to celebrate Shabbat, to find a few moments of calm and tranquility and peace at the end of a long week. So glad to be with you here in this sacred space, and so glad to be with those of you who are joining us by live stream this evening as well. We're happy that you are praying with us tonight as well. We hope that you'll take just a moment to introduce yourself in the chat, say hello, and share some Shabbat greetings. We will begin our service, as we do each week, with the lighting of Shabbat candles. The meditation and blessing before the lighting of the candles are on pages 3 and then page 2 of your prayer books. It is my pleasure to invite Gary and Kathy Marks to the bima to light the candles for Shabbat this week and lead us in meditation and blessing before the kindling of these lights. Page 3 and then page 2. Yeah, thank you. Here are your lines, and there's your mic.
Oh. Go ahead.
Okay. English first?
Here, you go ahead.
Okay. English first.
Please.
Okay. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Kathy, do you want to light the candles?
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We'll continue in our books now on page 20 with the singing of Lecha Dodi, the hymn that encourages us to welcome the arrival of Shabbat the way we would welcome a bride into our midst, page 20 and 21.
Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat, nekabela. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat, nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Hishmianu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, l'shemo tiferet v'li tehila. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם הנסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שדברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Verse 9, we rise and face the entrance of our room to welcome Shabbat.
בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
We remain standing and we turn in our books to page 28. For the call to worship, Baruch Hu is on page 28.
Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach, Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed, Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed. Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai.
On page 31, this is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. Page 32.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha havta, Amecha havta. Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu, uvkumeinu nasiach bechukecha, v'nizmach b'divrei Toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed, ki ehem chayenu, ve'orech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla. Ve'ahavatcha al tasir, mimenu le'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
You may be seated, and we'll continue on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Michamocha, page 40.
מי כמוך
On page 44, you will find there the words of Vishamru at the top of the page, and Laura and I would love to invite all of you to sing along with us.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We'll continue now with our Amidah, which begins on page 46 and continues on the even-numbered pages. We rise to prayer together. The Amidah begins page 46.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei HaKol, Vezocher Chastei Avot ve'Imahot, Umevii Geula livnei bneihem, Leman Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor leolam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah rav lehoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel chaim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim ve'ofech olim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Micha mocha ba'al gevurot umido melach, Melech meimit umechaye umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai Mechayei hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kdoshim bechol yom yehallelujah selah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
Please be seated. We'll continue on page 57. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt. Let's read together. And our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. On page 60, we'll find the words to our prayer of peace. It may be the case that if you already have something, there is no need to pray for it, which I suppose is the reason that every time we get together, there is a reason for us to pray for peace. It seems that every week we're together, there is another reason, foreign or domestic, that we are called to raise our voices and join our prayers together to the source of peace, to pray that God will let peace reign on us and on the world. And so we'll offer this Shabbat, this prayer for Shalom Rav, for a great peace.
Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech Adon, lechol hashalom. Tahu melech Adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. V'tov Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
We'll take a few moments now for our own individual silent prayer.
Yehiyu l'ratzon imrefi, v'hekion libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri v'goali. Adonai tzuri v'goali. May the words of my mouth, and the meditations of my heart, be acceptable to you, Adonai. Adonai tzuri vegoali. Adonai tzuri vegoali.
Would you join me on page 253, please? On page 253, we'll find the words of Mishaberach, the prayer that we offer together on behalf of those who are in need of healing on this Shabbat. This is a time for us to turn our thoughts and our hearts to the members of our community, our families, and our city who find themselves in need of healing and wholeness on this Shabbat. Tonight we offer this prayer for Sarah Astrich, Elaine Betcher, Marcia Block, Ed Brook, Melba Berman, Mallory Carlson, Eileen Srsansky, Marie Cordova, Maya Creeder, Richard Dana, Michael Epstein, Barbara Fenton, Leon Finkelstein, Carol Friedman, Marcine S. Goldman, Aaron Goodman, Chuck Green, Christina Howard, Cam Hunter, Richard Jackson, Sarah James, Lawrence Levy, Betsy Lewis, Bev Saltzman-Lewin, Magdalene Pessin, Leah Rabelais, Hattie Reese, Joel Ruby, Shirley Schnoll, Alan Selbst, Edward Simmons, Jerry Spencer, Lenny Weinberger, Yvonne Zients, Ariela Sharon Bat Yafa Shoshana, David Ben Chana, Gelka Lachama Bat Libachaya, Yoshua Matityahu Ben Yaakov V'Prevachana, Zahava Bat Miriam Mishnir Zalman, and all who are suffering with afflictions of body, mind, or spirit. We pray together.
Misheberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
This evening, I want to insert an additional blessing into our Shabbat liturgy in this service. On page 259, you'll find there the words of our community's prayer for the state of Israel. We insert this prayer in our liturgy this evening just hours after news has begun unfolding about the military operation in Gaza and the missile launches against population centers in Israel, most recently resulting in the deployment of Iron Dome anti-missile batteries to the suburbs of Tel Aviv. This is a time of great uncertainty and anxiety for our people, our family, our friends, and our co-religionists in Israel, and so we offer this prayer for peace and protection for the community of Israel. Avinu shebashamayim, tzur Yisrael v'go'alo, barich et medinat Yisrael reshit smichat geulatenu. O Heavenly One, protector and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. We say together, Amen. And so we turn now to a more lighthearted blessing of joy and gratitude as I invite my friend Kathy Marks to please stand at her place. Our friend Kathy is celebrating a big birthday this weekend on Sunday, and so it is a joy to offer you, Kathy, some words of blessing as you reach this marvelous milestone. I won't tell everybody here the number, but I will say that this is the age at which our tradition suggests you have reached the pinnacle of wisdom and insight. So this is a big and momentous birthday. Kathy, you are surrounded by the people who love you. In your row and beyond it, you're surrounded by people in this room and in rooms far beyond this space with people who love and admire and take great joy in your presence. You, are a light, and you are a song, and you are a source of happiness and lightness to all of us who know and love you. I know how much your family cherishes and treasures you, and you are a treasure to us as well. You have led this congregation in song. You've led us in goodness and in conscience, and we know that as you enter this next year of your life, all of the wisdom you have amassed over the past decades will continue to guide you, to carry you forward to years of vigor and goodness, conscience, ethics, and sweetness. And so as you stand on the precipice of this big birthday, Kathy, I ask God's blessing on you. May you be blessed with wisdom, may you be blessed with peace, may you be blessed with fulfillment and joy. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehacheanu, v'kiyamanu, v'higianu, lazman hazeh. We praise you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe. You've given us life and sustained us and brought us to this joyful day. Amen. Mazel tov. Happy birthday. Friends, just a couple of short announcements for you on this Shabbat. I want to invite all of you here and all of you at home or wherever you're praying with us from to join us tomorrow morning for our Shmooze and Schmear Bagel Breakfast, which will be immediately following services here in the Proler Chapel. We'll be joining together in the Oshman Multipurpose Room for a bagel and schmear after services. Join us for services and then come and have a bite with us. You don't have to register, just come and have a nosh and join us for some conversation tomorrow morning right after services. We are, believe it or not, getting ready to start thinking about high holidays, and as such, we're starting to look for some volunteers who will be willing to help us usher at services this year. If you want to help us make the holidays welcome, hospitable, special, and warm for our members, please sign up on our website. You'll be contacted for the way that you can join us for a brief and important training session. No experience necessary, just a warm, welcoming smile and the desire to help make people feel at home during services. I also want to make sure you are all aware of the next Community Shabbat Dinner, which is on Friday night, August 19th, for only $5 a person. You can join us for dinner. This month, the menu is Mediterranean. We hope that you'll join us for a delicious dinner. Sign up and make some new friends. Join us for services and a bite to eat. Shabbat evening, August the 19th. And so speaking of Shabbat and speaking of the calendar, I want to make you aware of the fact that tonight is an unusual night on the Jewish calendar. Of course, it's Shabbat, which begins as the sun goes down, the beginning of our day of rest, the beginning of the week's climax, the pinnacle of Jewish celebration and gratitude, a full 25 hours of abundance and ease and comfort, a time when, as all of us know, labor is prescribed and we are commanded to fill our hours with oneg Shabbat, with the joy of the Sabbath day. But this week, as the sun goes down tonight, we are entering a day of darkness on the Jewish calendar. It is the 9th day of the Hebrew month of Av, Tisha B'Av, as it is known in Hebrew. And Tisha B'Av is a day every year of grim commemoration. It is the darkest day of the Jewish year, whose message is in many ways the opposite of the message of Shabbat. Tisha B'Av tells us, no matter how comfortable you feel, no matter how secure you think your abundance and comfort and good fortune may be, suffering and loss may not be far behind. On Tisha B'Av, we remember with sadness all of the calamities and destruction of the Jewish past. We remember inquisitions and pogroms, exile and genocide and destruction. On Shabbat, Jewish law dictates that we luxuriate in rest and tranquility. But on Tisha B'Av, Jewish law prohibits all of the things that make us comfortable and satisfied: food and drink, bathing in cosmetics, listening to music, even studying Torah is prohibited under Tisha B'Av's rules of self-denial. The evening meal on Shabbat traditionally includes meat and wine and song and blessings, but on Tisha B'Av, the last meal before beginning the fast traditionally consists of a crust of bread and a hard-boiled egg dipped in ashes, with which we remember the ancient temple which burned in Jerusalem. So tonight we enter a Shabbat of deep contradictions. On this evening we stand in the tension between two different commandments pulling us in two opposite directions, joy and mourning, feasting and self-denial. It's a philosophical and theological dilemma, but it's also a very practical one. What are you supposed to do when a fast day, when a day of mourning falls on Shabbat? Do you cancel the fast in order to honor Shabbat with joyfulness and song? Or do you prioritize the work of mourning and memory and then get back to celebrating Shabbat a week from now so that we can give this day its due and honor the tragedies of the past with dignity and respect? Well, the answer that the rabbis give, probably unsurprisingly, is neither. You can't cancel the joy of Shabbat, but you also can't ignore the imperative to remember and to mourn. Neither Shabbat nor Tisha B'Av nullifies the other. So the answer is this: because fasting is not permitted on the day of rest, the observance of Tisha B'Av is pushed back by a day. So this year, the day of Jewish mourning is observed on Sunday, the 10th day of the month of Av. So the resolution of this Shabbat of contradictions teaches us a lot about what's important to us as Jews, as a people with a past marked by both triumph and tragedy. We have to give thanks and we have to remember. Both of those postures are obligatory parts of the Jewish dance of life. We can't live lives of such arrogant privilege that we are led to believe that we're immune to suffering, the sufferings and anti-Semitism and bigotry that our ancestors experienced. But at the same time, we also can't wallow so deeply in grief and self-pity about Jewish suffering that we're unable to appreciate the joy and abundance of the lives we live today. The Jewish national story has always been about the way that joy and comfort exist in immediate proximity and enduring tension with terror and privation. This is true in ancient days and in our own as well. In the stories about our Bible, this theme is repeated again and again. Adam and Eve delight in the richness and plenitude of the Garden of Eden, only to be immediately exiled from it. Joseph is imprisoned in Egypt, and in the blink of an eye, he is granted a position at the right hand of the Pharaoh. God shows favor to King Solomon by letting him build the great temple in Jerusalem, the most majestic site of celebration and sacrifice in the ancient world, and a few short centuries later, the Babylonians wipe it from the earth and disperse the Jewish people to the four corners of the earth. Now, especially when it falls on Shabbat, as it does this year, Tisha B'Av reminds us that there will always be upward and downward cycles, one following the other. National longing gives way to a long-hoped-for homecoming. This is followed again by exile and before long, grateful reunion once again. The architecture of Jewish history is a wave, each downward slope containing the momentum that will carry us up the exhilarating ascent to follow. And that cyclical structure makes certain that we won't ignore our losses, but we can't dwell on them either. Every year contains both ashes and eggs, breathtaking destruction and infinite potential for growth. Every moment invites us to honor what we have lost and look forward to the bright horizons that lie ahead. Now, certainly there is nothing uniquely Jewish about the recognition that every human life includes experiences of disappointment and loss. There's nothing uniquely Jewish about acknowledging that even the most beautiful and fulfilling parts of our lives today are often things that would have been unimaginable to us years ago. Virtually all of us can say that we're living lives today that turned out differently than the way we once thought they would. This is both a sad and a beautiful truth. But what is uniquely Jewish is the fact that we are forcibly returned to this awareness every year. Every late summer, when Tisha B'Av arrives just at the time when our weekly Torah reading presents us with selections from the beginning of the book of Deuteronomy, when we once again symbolically rejoin our ancestors standing eagerly at the border of the Promised Land. The same mystery and hope, foreboding and promise that swirled around them millennia ago surrounds us as well as we think about where we have been and where we are going. Tisha B'Av is the time when we are invited, regretfully perhaps, to consider the darkest periods of our people's past. It's a time to contemplate the ways in which our people over and over again have found themselves lacking home, lacking safety, lacking comfort. But Tisha B'Av isn't a day on which we vilify the people who hurt us. This isn't a day about the Babylonians or the Romans or the Inquisitors or anyone else who perpetrated genocide and destruction. This is a day about us. The purpose of contemplating the past is to gain a new understanding of who we have become because of it and in spite of it, and to spur us to consider what we will make of the future. You may have heard the story about the ancient Jewish king who commissioned his greatest soothsayer to produce for him magic words that would make him happy whenever he was feeling sad. The magician goes back to his workshop and reappears a few days later and says, "Well, Your Majesty, I have some good news. The good news is that I've found some magic words that will make you happy whenever you're feeling sad. The bad news is the magic words will also make you feel sad when you're feeling happy. The magic words are, 'This too shall pass.'" Our Jewish story reminds us that the Promised Land is always just around the next bend. And despite all we have lost, we still know the feeling of being at rest and being at peace. Because just as the Jewish experience can't be fully understood without suffering, neither can it be understood or appreciated without hope. So in a way, I think this unusual year in which Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbat helps us to understand both the grief and the joy a little bit better. Sadness and hope are intimate neighbors. No life is immune to suffering or loss, but in the topography of Jewish history, the downward slope always gives way to an ascent. And when we reach the peak of each mountain, we can use our position at the top, temporary though it may be, to gain new perspective on the promise yet to come. May this Shabbat, this day of grief and of celebration, bring us to appreciate who we are, where we are going, and may we remember, one and all, that this too shall pass. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Friends, if you'll join me in your prayer books on the bottom half of page 282, we'll rise together for the words of Aleinu as the ark is open, page 282 at the bottom.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hako, la'tet kedula le'otzer bereshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishbechot ha'adama, shelo samchalkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 287. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
You may be seated. Page 293. Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones and those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We take just a quiet moment now to do the work of memory. At this time, we think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. On this Shabbat, our hearts go out in sadness and sympathy to the families of Gerald B. Katz and Frank Yellen, who were laid to rest in recent days. To their names we add these, the names of those whose yahrzeits fall at this season. Together we remember Alvin Ablon, Carl S. Ablon, Zeb D. Alford, Walter Alley, Hilda Graham Askenaz, Rita Atlas, Vernon B. Baber, Rose Belasco, Eleanor Boots Bergman, Rachel Kristen Bitton, Florence Perlman Bloom, Adolf Blumenfeld, Isaac Banyuk, Hyman Banyuk, Elsie Mae Briley, Jonathan Paul Brody, Max Bushman, Emily Chellin, Leah Cohn, Eva Lou Cohn, Bertha Davis, David Engel, Adolf Engler, Sarah Ehrenwert, Abe Fink, Ralph Friedson, Rose Frey, Beatrice Friedlander, David Frosch, Francis Solomon Garfinkel, Ann Gattess, Arthur Goldman, Gertrude Oshman Goldstein, Melvin Greenblatt, Jean Green, Max Greenfield, Saul Gross, Florence Gates Gross, Helen Gruen, Yechiel Hayon, Isidore Hoffman, Brian Howell, Irma Smith Jeffer, Ida Joseph, Harold Karklin, Joseph Karkowski, Rose Cook Kelly, Harry S. Kessler, David Kessler, Gloria Klein, Elka Krakauer, Milton Krams, Justin Kurtz, Pat Lavage, Dr. Edward Lapon, Frida Lerner, Jean Jacobs Lerner, Maxine Lewis, Diana Lewis, Milton Littell, Barbara Livitz, Joseph Loser, Roger Manny, Guy Martin, Aurora Ordonez, Peter Oshman, M. Kenneth Oshman, Arthur Paul, Pearl Peskin, Kurt Platchek, Shirley Radner, Arthur Ribbon, Tom Hall Robb Jr., Ferdinand Rosenau, Daniel G. Rosenthal, Jack Rosenthal, Libby Schmiel, Paul Schneider, Sidney Shuby, Cecilia Schwartz, Hilda Seliger, Eugene L. Sembler, Marcia Shanock, Gertrude Shapiro, Robert L. Shelby, Brenda Razel Solomon, Ida Clara Solomon, Werner Steinhardt, Solomon Stopnicki, Gertrude Teller, Herbert Tiras, Avram Zelig Tunitsky, Morris Weiser, Jake Wilkenfeld, Celia Winfield, Isidore Wolchansky, and Ben Wolf. The memories of all the departed are with us as we turn our books to page 294 and we rise together for the Mourner's Kaddish, page 294. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach eruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chaye l'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'yimru, amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach la'alam u'l'me'el maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemed kudsha barichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'yimru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru, amen. Hoseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru, amen.
Oh, say shalom, bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol
And we'll continue now with the blessings of Kiddush and Motzi. These are in our books on page 4 and 5. Page 5.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho v'yahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron le'maaseh v'reshit. Ki hu yom techila lemikraye kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim. Ki vanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon Inchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
L'chaim. Now our blessing, giving thanks for the food that sustains us.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam,
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. Our closing song this evening is on page 358. On the bottom half of the page, on 358, you'll find there the second to last song there, Hashivenu. This is a song whose lyrics come from the Book of Lamentations, which is the traditional text read on Tisha B'Av. It is a melody and a set of words that evoke mournfulness and longing, but on this Shabbat, the lamentation of the past, I think, gives way to the joy and gratitude of Shabbat. Page 358, we'll sing together.
Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai elecha, v'nashuva, Chadesh, Chadesh, Yaminu kekedem. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai elecha, v'nashuva, v'nashuva, Chadesh, Chadesh, Yaminu kekedem.
Would you please rise for a moment of benediction? Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva. Let us come home to you, O God, and truly shall we return. Chadesh yamenu kekedem. Help us understand that every day is a new opportunity. Every day a new opening, a new chance for goodness and renewal and peace. Amen.
Amen.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.